So I did a master's degree in foreign policy for a couple of years. And in between my 2 years of graduate school, I thought, well, I want to be a foreign correspondent, but there's not really like a school that you go to be that. There's not really an internship that you can do to do that kind of work. And so I packed my bag and I went to Afghanistan as a freelancer or a stringer, and was there for about 3 weeks that first time in 2003. Went back that same summer, a few weeks later, and then came back in 2004 after I graduated for about 4 months to cover the first presidential election as NPR's main correspondent on the ground there. This hat I've been wearing for about 18 months. I'm currently the weekend White House correspondent for ABC News, also covering national security and a whole host of other issues. And it is an interesting time to be in network news. There are tectonic shifts happening, some of which you've probably read about in headlines in the last 24 hours, no less. Major layoffs, streamlining, all kinds of stuff happening at the major networks in television. And all of this is stuff you've all, I'm sure, been thinking about, whether you're a journalism school student or if you're a consumer of news, you've been reading headlines that say, you know, mainstream media is going through this identity crisis. Everyone's trying to figure out how to harness new technologies. What are we in this new universe that involves Twitter and Facebook and blogs and multimedia? Everyone has to be able to know how to do everything. And there are so many different ways of telling stories. And it requires everyone to be more creative about how you approach the whole process of journalism. Sometimes you will be asked to do a story that's pretty complicated, and you'll be asked to do it in a minute. And at first, when I came to that world and someone handed me this really complicated story about HIV/AIDS in Washington, D.C., which is a really big problem, and they said, go out, do this story, find really compelling characters, and by the way, could you just make that about 60 seconds long? That's hard to do. That's hard to do. But it is not impossible. And in fact, you know, I had a good friend and colleague recently tell me every story can be told in a headline, in 1 minute, or in 2 minutes. From then on, it becomes a little more complicated when you want to talk about documentary work. But it depends, depending on the real estate that you are given, you can always find a way to tell that story. And you can always find a way to create a narrative and to compel someone. Maybe you didn't get to say everything you wanted to say, but you can compel people to then go and find out more information about something. You can leave a powerful impression on your audience, which is what you want to do as a journalist. And you as a consumer of news, you need to be aware of those impressions that people are creating, and you can determine how much more you're going to put into that process. It's kind of a two-way street, the way I think of news. It's not just the journalist delivering you this truth, this person on high saying, this is the way I see the world, this is the way I interpret the truth, go with God and be a good human. It's a more interactive process than that, right? Like, you as a consumer will absorb this, and then it's up to you to make your own decision. It's up to you to then take that piece of information, take that story, absorb it, say, yeah, I appreciate that. You've compelled me to look further. I'm going to delve more into that. I'm going to check out a different story online. I'm going to check out a radio piece on that. I'm going to talk to my friends about it. And then I'm going to build my own opinion about what the truth is of that issue, of that story. So I think we're all, as journalists, trying to figure out how to become a part of that decision-making process. I don't know if you've heard about this, but the White House press corps bubble. You kind of get ensconced into this. You get on the press plane, and then you get off the press plane, and then they put you in a bus, and you go on the bus, and then you end up in some school gymnasium, kind of like this, an auditorium, nondescript. Not that your auditorium is nondescript. It's a very nice auditorium. But you end up in some kind of public space, and you're sequestered in a little room off the side where that's your press room, and you're given very little other access to the town you're in. Every time it feels the same. I mean, you could be in Las Vegas, or you could be in Tennessee, and you would have no idea where you are. So that's another set of challenges. How to tell a compelling story when it all feels the same. Here I am at another Obama town hall meeting, and what's he going to say now? And how am I going to take that and turn it into something that's going to compel people to do their own digging and to leave them with a solid impression?